All right, welcome to the Friday show of the 208. We're going to take a look back, as we said, at some of the stories we've covered this week and share some of the comments about those stories that we didn't have time to share on those days. This week was a big one at the Idaho State House. We got our first official look at the Freedom Caucus's idea of what we should do with Idaho's education budget. Senate Bill 1039 is the Fund Students Not Systems bill, the one that establishes education savings accounts in Idaho. They say it will open up the options for parents, giving them the choiciest of school choice when it comes to where they can send their kids to school, public, private, religious, or at home. And parents would get about $5,900 per kid to pay for it. And that money would come from what the state already pays each school district per student per year. 80% of it would go into an ESA account, or an ESA, I should say, which would be that $5,900, leaving the other 20% with the school. Now, those who crafted the bill, it was introduced by Republican Senator Tammy Nichols, who said it was modeled after Arizona's, which basically came from a copy and paste build your own bill form letter constructed by the American Legislative Exchange Council. On Tuesday, we heard from the Mountain States Policy Center. On Wednesday, we heard from Idaho Business for Education. On both days, we heard from you.
I think there's a lot of fear that schools are going to be shut down. There's a lot of groups out there saying education choice means shutting down public schools. It does not mean shutting down public schools. It means making public schools better.
It does mean less money for public schools.
I mean, the money does not belong to the school. It belongs to the child's education.
But according to Idaho's Constitution, it shall be the duty of the legislature to establish and maintain a general, uniform, and thorough system of public, free common schools. Cargill argues that doesn't account for everyone.
If you're one of the 10 to 15% of students in the state right now who are not in the public school system, you're not getting a benefit from the state from that constitutional requirement.
Okay, let's talk about private school kids. History shows in any place that has these ESAs that 60 to 80% are the ones that are enrolling in this and basically subsidizing their private education. That it's not so much people who are jumping out of failing schools and then going to a private school. It's those that are already there. So how is this not just benefiting those kids that are already there?
Well, first of all, I would dispute the number 60 to 80%.
However, that's exactly what Arizona's Department of Education found this past fall, when their ESAs became universal. About 75% of their applicants were never enrolled in any public school prior.
You can be a millionaire in Arizona and still get $7,000 per student. So this isn't about helping these poor kids in failing schools. This is about providing direct government subsidies to families whose kids never went to public schools. That is the pattern. That's where the huge cost comes in. One legislator was accusing the governor of socialism yesterday for trying to give $8,500 for graduating seniors so they could go on to college, and he called it socialism. Well, this is socialism on steroids. You're just passing out money like it's candy.
80% of which will no longer sweeten the pot of Idaho's public schools.
But the real rub here is the pressure this puts on the state general fund. Something's got to give. And in Idaho, we're not going to raise income taxes or sales taxes to fund all these new school systems. That's why it's going to fall on the property taxpayers.
The argument is this is supposed to stop or help a failing system, that Idaho's public school system is not, we keep throwing money at it, it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
That's garbage. We rank 51st in the country per student funding, 51st. And yet our national assessment scores are well above the national average.
Even according to the Heritage Foundation, whose mission is to promote conservative public policies, Idaho's schools offer the biggest bang for our buck. Speaking of bucks, Karen from Garden City says, we are unfortunately far away from Thomas Jefferson's ideal of a good, free education for all citizens. If you have money, you get a good education. If you're poor, oh well, sucks to be you. And Arlene says, I pay taxes to the government for government services, such as public schools, not to individuals. Parents can choose what to do with their kids. I don't care, just not on my dime. Brenda in Star wants to know, how much will the Department of Ed have to expand to manage all these ESA accounts? Doesn't sound like less government to this conservative. Actually, according to the bill, that responsibility would be put on the state treasurer's office, with fees taken out of the fund to pay for it. The treasurer may also contract with a private management firm to manage it. and they will be in charge of auditing the program. There will also be an oversight committee consisting of 6 parents, which one assumes would be volunteer. Sandy asks, if private schools receive state money through vouchers or ESAs, do they have to accommodate all students? Those who don't speak English, special education through a student's 21st birthday in some cases. Public schools are required to accommodate for all students. In fact, Sandy, there's a section that says there will be no state control over any non-public schools. They don't have to change how they do things. No strings attached.
One thing to keep in mind is this is not about parental choice. They keep saying this is about parental choice. This is about the students the private and religious schools choose to admit. And for whatever reason, they're low achievers, they're special needs, autistic, whatever it is, the school can simply say, well, we just don't have enough room right now.
Which is why Ron in Meridian believes the giant sucking sound you will hear is that of ordinary Idahoan tax dollars going to wealthy private schools, while rural Idaho schools are already crumbling.
The first draft of this plan puts aside $20 million to pay for it. And Rod Grammer says we have about 15, 17, maybe 18,000 kids across the state in private school. And if all of them sign up for this, well, we're going to be upwards of 100 million like that. If Idaho's education savings account bill was in fact modeled after Arizona's, they didn't include the part where Arizona set up 2 different education budgets. One bucket for public school, another bucket for these ESAs. Idaho's would be a direct deduction from the public school budget, which means how much money these districts have to spend every year could be pretty fluid. And parents can sign up their students anytime, but funds would have to be divvied up, I should say, by JFAC in January for the following school year. So that way they would know what they have to spend. But we do not know yet when this bill will get a public hearing in the Senate Education Committee, but you can bet questions like these that we just talked about will be brought up.